You are now listening to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Latrell Mitchell is going to be the talking point here when we cover the South Sydney Rabbitohs season in 2023. I'm your host, the Supercoach Braino, and I'm joined as always by the Supercoach Matrix, Matty. A little bit to talk about here, but to be honest, I'm a little bit bored with this South Sydney Rabbitohs lineup. What about you?
I'd argue that there's not that much to talk about. Latrell Mitchell's one of the best, and the rest the rest.
Yeah, I'd probably argue there's one more guy that's relevant, I guess, when you talk about premium players. I'm sure we'll touch on him very soon. But I've been looking through this lineup, and I've been trying to find out any signings that the Rabbitohs have made, but they've actually just gone and made none. They actually haven't bought one player.
Sometimes it's not what you spend, it's what you save.
Well, they've saved plenty because they've offloaded Polo. They've offloaded Mark Nichols over to the Dolphins. Cult hero over there. Joshy Mansour is still unsigned, which I find hard to believe. And then Cody
Nicarima. Good in reserve grade.
He will, absolutely. And Cody Nicarima's gone as well. So what we'll do is we'll quickly move through the 1 to 17 as we do. I'll try to actually do it this time instead of just saying it and then not doing it at all.
Oh, I was going to cut you off anyway. As soon as you started talking about that number one, I was just going to talk for 5 minutes. So.
That was good. I enjoyed that. Especially after the end of the pod, you're like, that we did this and you just did the opposite. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like me. Mate, so obviously Latrell at the back. We've got, at the moment, Isaac Thompson and Alex Johnston on the wings. We've got Isaiah Tass and Campbell Graham in the centres. Cody Walker at 5'8", Lachlan Ilias at halfback. Then at prop, we've got Harm Sele and Tavita Totola. Damien Cook at hooker. Keon Kaloa-Matangi and and Jai Arrow in the second row. Cameron Murray at lock. And then on the bench, Saliva Havili, Tom Burgess, Davey Mawali, and Jacob Host. Is there any any smokies that we haven't mentioned there? Do you agree with that lineup?
No. I actually asked you if Blake Taff was still in the side, but like we said, only injury relevant. They lost a bit of depth, and I'm interested to see how they go.
Yeah, it should be interesting for the Rabbitohs. We'll talk about how we think they're going to go a little bit later, but let's talk about their fixtures before we dive into the players specifically. So with the Rabbitohs, they don't have a bye until round 16, and that's quite appealing. But I think when you look a little bit deeper, you have a look at their first 8 games, and it is the hardest 8 games in the competition. So they're starting with the Sharks, then they move into Penrith, the Roosters. So the first 3 games are brutal. You're versing essentially first, second, and third. Yeah, pretty much. And then you move into Manly, and we don't know what Manly are going to be like this year. It could be a tough game if Turbo's back and firing. And then they go into the Storm and the Bulldogs, and we expect the Bulldogs to have a bigger year. And then obviously they get a reprieve with the Dolphins. They get a bit of an easier game there. And then they have to verse the Panthers again. So they've got to verse the 2-time premiers 2 times in the first 8 rounds. Now, obviously this will affect nearly everybody but Latrell Mitchell. Let's face it. We know that Latrell Mitchell's fixture-proof.
He is fixture-proof. Yep.
How do you, I suppose, let's talk about Latrell Mitchell. How do you see him going this year?
Boom shakalaka!
Mate, his numbers speak for itself. He's priced on 85 average, and I think you're getting a bit of a discount after an injury-riddled 2022. He scored more than a point a minute and plays 80 minutes every game. I love a goal kicker, and if the Rabbitohs have any success throughout the year, it'll be on the back of some stellar performances from Trell Mitt.
I can't argue with you. I can't argue with you. I got him in, I think maybe when he came back from that hamstring injury from overseas, and he came back in his first game, I think he turned up. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep,
scored a try, just looked $1 million. And I got him straight in the next week. I wasn't planning on getting Latrell. I wasn't even looking at him. But when he came back, and he just looked unbeatable. No one could tackle him. No one could get near him. He just bust through defence like he was playing against reserve graders. Got him straight in. He averaged, 84 for the year. Mate, He helped me a lot last year. And I know a lot of people tried to anti-pot him, which was even better because, all these guys up the top end of the rankings thought I'm going to go against him and ruin their season. So
that was me, man. He just kept burning me. He was somebody I wanted. And I kept watching it, through the slits in my fingers as I covered my eyes. And yeah, he was fantastic all year. He's someone I'm not starting because I'm choosing to go Tedesco, and the way I've structured my team, I can't have them both. But yeah, it's something I'm very, very nervous about. And to me, probably, one of two shining points in this team.
Initially, I had him. When I was doing the team picker, I'm like, no, I'm going to go Primo at fullback. I'm going to go with Latrell. I'm going to go with Teddy. And you've talked me around a little bit on Turbo, especially because he's starting to the word is he's good for round one. He's come back looking really good from his 2 weeks in the States. And we know, obviously, when Latrell came back from the States with exactly the same guy, we know what happened there.
He's going to turn up. He's going to turn up.
Mate, if he does, I'll be a very happy man. So, but mate, my boom
shakalaka
is Cameron Murray. Now, I agree with Latrell. To be honest, I think Cam Murray could probably average close to what Latrell's going to bring this season. I guess for a little bit of perspective, Cameron Murray is pretty popular. Cameron Murray is 20% owned at this point in the season, in the preseason. So last year, Cameron Murray, he averaged 71 last year. But what we need to remember is he actually had a final score of 1 in round 25, which dropped his average from 75 to 71. So what has actually happened there is we've saved ourselves $42,000 on his price by him having a 1 in the final round. So that's basically $42,000 in your pocket if you picked up Cam Murray to start in round 1, guaranteeing that he can probably average 75 as a minimum if he did exactly what he did last year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, Cam Murray's a tremendous player, and I'm not going to say that I'm not going to own him throughout the year. I think I will own him at some stage. I think he comes at a premium price, and I know you're getting him at a small discount, but as I've said in the Team Picker podcast, I'm picking Angus Crichton. I'm going to ride it home. And if at some point throughout the year I can upgrade Angus Crichton to Cam Murray, I might be there. But I'm going to save the cash straight away. I'm going to use it elsewhere. I'm going to bolster my team. I think Angus Crichton has a chance to score as many as Cameron Murray, whereas I don't see Cameron Murray scoring much more than, peak could be like 77, 78 in my mind. And yeah, I think that you can get that out of Angus Crichton for a bit cheaper. So,
yeah, I can't disagree with Crichton. We spoke about that on the Roosters pod. He's looking the goods. We know Kiri's healthy, and I think that plays a big part into Crichton. But if you missed the Crichton episode, go back and have a listen to that one. Now, with Cam Murray, the reason is he only had 4 scores under 60 in 20 rounds last year. So you know what you're getting. You can plug and play him. You know what you're going to get. Obviously, you miss him through the origin period. And obviously, you've got to take into consideration the Rabbitohs buys on round 16, 20, and 26. So he's got back-end buys. But, I mean, that doesn't stop you from starting with him initially and taking him all the way through to round 12 or 13 before he gets a rest before origin. So worth knowing. He only scored 3 tries last year as well. I think Cam Murray's a relatively active try scorer in the league.
And he's a chance of scoring more. That's a good point.
Averages 37 tackles a game. I feel like he's going to go 80 plus this year as an average over the year. So he's my boom. Before we move on, mate, I just want to give a quick mention to the ANZPL League. Our friends over at the ANZPL. I know we've played a little bit of NBA 2K in our time.
Oh, that's where I met you.
The great centre in the rec that I met. But no, the guys over there are obviously supporting the podcast, which is fantastic. And mate, I guess if you're sick of playing My Career by yourself or sick of playing career mode, you're tired of heading into the rec by yourself, matching up with randoms that you don't know. Honestly, there's nothing worse. You got to head on over and give the guys at ANZPL 2K a message in relation to their Australasian 2023 NBA 2K League, which has just begun its 5th season. Get a group of 5 mates together. Pretty simple to find 5 mates on 2K and enter yourself into the competition to be within a chance of winning the grand prize, which is over $6,000 this season. So that's pretty handy cash. Mate, players from the league, such as Mr. G Wiz, or known by Matty G in the 2K community, played his first Pro-Am game the other night.
It was mate, electric. I watched it.
He was
6 or 7 from 3. Just wait,
absolutely lit it up, mate. And it's great to see Australia's now getting that recognition that it deserves when it comes to online gaming, mate. So register your interest today by sending the guys a message at ANZPL2K, and they'll help you out from there. Mate, I wish I was better at 2K. I'd give it a crack.
If I was as good as Matty G, I'd be out there.
Yeah, mate. How good was he? That was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
All right, let's talk Supercoach.
mate, let's get stuck back in. Before we move on to the rest of this team, Molten Fantasy Sports have opened up a unlimited group for NRL Supercoach. So if you want to join that unlimited group, you can either just send us a message or you can use the code 451840 and you join that unlimited group. And mate, I don't want to give too many things away, but I've got a prize for the winner planned. So it's a pretty cool prize as well. So,
is it a night with you?
Oh, mate, I don't know. That'd be worth a little bit more than what I'm planning. But, mate, we've both talked about our booms. Let's talk about our smokies, because I think there are a couple of options here that could fly under the radar.
Yeah. First question, did you have Lachlan Ilias at any stage last year?
Yeah, I did. I started with him. Yeah,
me too, and I was a bit disappointed. But I think coming into his second year, any 363k halfback in a quality side is always someone to watch. I wish he goal kicked. He's young, and after a good season under his belt, I look for him to make that next step. If you're fading Nico and Cleary, I wouldn't be afraid to look at Ilias if you're looking to save some serious cash. Look, he's not going to score the points that a Cleary or a Nico is ever going to score. But with the 600k you save, you could have guys like Latrell in your team. You could, maybe bump up some guys to someone like Cameron Murray. And, he could be the guy that you play on select weeks.
So Ilias is priced at a 34 average.
Yep.
At this stage, which, to be honest, I thought it was more, if I'm honest. Initially, when I saw this, and I'm like, really? He's going Ilias? But I don't necessarily hate it. I don't hate it. I mean, I don't love it either. He's definitely not someone that I'm going to look at this year. I think there's way too many other options in other teams that are at a better price or probably have a better role in the team. I personally think that Ilias is going to just play second fiddle to Cody Walker all year, really.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of an asterisk there. I don't have him in my team. But if I had to find a smoky, if I had to find somebody to look at in the South Sydney Rabbitohs, which I honestly find fucking boring, let's just look at Ilias. Let's have a bit of a chat. If he comes out and scores 55 and 60 in the first 2 weeks, why wouldn't you?
It's definitely a no for me, dog.
Yeah, no, it's a no for me. Mate, my smoky is Isaac Thompson. Now, he's quite popular from what we can see when we look at Supercoach. He's owned by 13%. Now, nowhere near as owned as guys like Hammer and things like that, but there's a lot of unknowns with him. So nobody really knows what's going to happen. Like, he's competing for that centre position or that wing at the moment with Tane Milne. Now, Milne being suspended for the first couple of weeks makes it really tricky for us to have any trust in Isaac Thompson's role. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how in favour he is. In comparison to Milne, does Milne just come straight back into this side when he's not suspended? Last year, when we look at Milne, to be honest, Thompson's in my side at the moment. When we look at Milne, I feel like he's a little bit out of favour over at Souths. I feel like the suspensions last year and the issues that he had on field and the disciplinary things that cost his side a few positions on the ladder, I feel like maybe he's a little bit out of favour. So I'm going to back Isaac Thompson to hold that role past round 2. What are your thoughts on Thompson?
Thompson played 2 games last year and got 55 and 73. You're paying 336k on a little bit of a gamble. But if he's playing, and especially those first 2 weeks, if you're looking to save some money at centre wing, I wouldn't be afraid to play him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in my first 4 centres.
Yeah, excellent.
I would play him. He's a tackle busting machine. I think he's been called Brian To'o 2.0. Brian To'o Light, I think it was.
By you?
Yeah, by me. Don't throw me under the bus like that, mate. Come on. No, but seriously, he is. He's base stats for fun. He's a good base stat centre wing.
I think anyone that holds that centre position you could look at, even if Tane Milne comes back in at 450k, I personally would have lost a bit of trust in him after last year. That game that he got sent to the bin twice, that was absolute trash. If I was a Souths fan, I'd be throwing garbage at him. But if he earns his way through training and everything and comes back into the team, even at 450k, he's a good scorer too. So
I was going to throw him on my cheapie option because I consider anything sub 350,000 a cheapie this year. But yeah, more of a smoky because we just don't know what's going to happen. He could honestly come out and average 60 for the year. Honestly, he's got that in him. Or he could come out, average 40 in the first 2 games. Tane Milne comes back in and you're basically stuck with a bloke you've got to trade out. So not ideal. But
my biggest concern is he comes back, averages 60 in the first 2 games, and they still bring Tane Milne back in. That's what I'm worried about. And it's a teaser, and you don't want to move him from your side, and he's not bottom dollar. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yep. Mate, what about your bust? You got a pretty big name player here in your bust section. Yes,
I do. It's Damien Cook. I think Damien Cook's going to regress, and Robson will be the second premium hooker in the comp. Damien Hook relies on his speed. He's only getting older. He looked like he was nearly going to miss Origin last year due to form. Look, I just don't think he's what he was, and I won't look at him all year unless he's 500k.
It's definitely a no for me, dog.
It's fair. That's fair. I mean, I've publicised it nearly every single episode we've done since we talked about the Cowboys that I think Robson's going to be the number 1 hooker this year. It's a big take, and I'm kind of second-guessing myself a little bit now, but I think Cook slides down that ladder this year. I truly do. I don't think he's going to be terrible. He's not going to be 5th or 6th. He's probably going to hover around 3 or 4. But he will have. I feel like he's going to have regression. I think he's a pretty bad option. So I agree with you on that. I think another guy that's a pretty bad option is Isaiah Tass. So he's come into this side with a 51 average, priced on a 51 average. I'm not quite sure what side he's going to play on at this point in time. I'm not sure how this lines up, whether he's going to play on the left with Alex Johnston. And if that's the case, which I think it would be because Campbell Graham played on the right. I mean, there's 2 issues here. If Campbell Graham plays on the right and Tass plays on the left, Tass is going to be used as a decoy all year to Johnston. We know that they love that Walker to Latrell sweeping play, Latrell cut out pass to Johnston. Johnston dives, puts it down in the corner. How often did we see that last year?
Tass you sound like 612 ABC. I can just hear it now.
Yep. So I feel like Tass will be used as a decoy a lot of the time this year if he's on that left. And then if he's on the right-hand side, we've got Tass and we've got Thompson or Milne on the right. And I can guarantee you that all the traffic is going to be going down the left if you've got Campbell Graham and you've got Alex Johnston on that left-hand side. So nothing really suits Tass. I feel like he's definitely not going to average more than 50. I feel like he's definitely going sub 50 this year. There's way too much uncertainty, so he's my bust this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on to the cheapies, mate. I mean, we've both got a guy that we agree on in Davey Moali. You want to talk through him?
Yeah, look, there's a reason. He's the percentage that he is owned. He's the man to step up after Paolo has left. And if you're fading front row forwards, why not throw in a guy for 200k, let him generate some cash, and see if someone decent emerges at some stage.
Yeah, a bit of a placeholder. I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. It looks like he's going to jag a bench spot at the moment. So he's 14% owned as well, which I don't love. I mean, you wouldn't call that pod territory, but you definitely wouldn't call it popular. It's a little bit mid-range. You could go either way with it.
He's not going to jag a starting spot at this stage. Like, have a look how good that starting lineup is. Look, he's going to play 25, 30 minutes. He might be worth 330k, and we hope someone else emerges. But
I agree. I'm with you. I think Sele is a guy that sits in that realm as well. It's pretty cheap. What's his price at? 312k. 29 average last year. So usually with a guy that scored 29 average last year, you wouldn't look at the bloke. But he should jag that starting prop role. But there's just such an unknown. At the moment, you've got a 4-forward bench if you count Saliva Havili, who can play on an edge. He can play through the middle. He can play at hooker. They've just re-signed him as well. So obviously they have a plan to use him. Too much uncertainty with Burgess. You've got Jacob Host there as well, who's a decent player. And then obviously Moali is probably going to fit into that bench there somewhere as well, unless Tavita Totola finds himself out of favour, which I don't see happening. So it's quite stacked in the forwards there.
Burgess is sitting on a 51 average, and he's a quality player that comes off the bench. You wonder if he's just going to play more more minutes than him, and we're not going to see too much from him. But at 300k, it's worth a punt. I've said it. I think I've said it every podcast. Front row forwards are dismal for me. I'm not seeing a lot of. I'm not seeing much at all that I'm interested in.
So we'll give it to Mawali.
Yeah, let's do it.
Last thing, mate. Hot take. You've got a, I guess, a pretty big hot take. Might go against the grain a little bit here.
I know there's a lot of Bunny fans, and I went past someone at Uncle Dan's today and said, "Oh, hey, Cody Walker," and I love their passion and everything, but I could see him missing the 8 this year. Much like the Sharks, I don't see a lot of depth with the blokes that they left. They paid their guys. They let a lot of guys go. I think if there's an injury or two, the Rabbits are in real trouble, and I don't think they're going to make the 8. I think if they can stay healthy all year, what football team, like NRL's such a physical sport, what football team aren't going to see any injuries? I can see him finishing in at 8th if they can stay healthy, but I see him missing the 8. If they lose Latrell for 6 weeks, even if they lose Damien Cook or Cameron Murray for longer than the Origin period, I think they're in trouble this year.
That's hot.
Big hot take. Mate, I don't see them missing the 8. I see them finishing 6th at this point. But again, you're spot on. If Latrell goes down, they're in big dramas. If Cam Murray goes down, they're in big trouble going forward. So a couple of things there. Like they're very heavily reliant on 2 players, even probably 3 if you count Cody Walker. If Cody Walker goes down, he does a lot of the controlling through the middle and down that left edge, that popular left edge with Alex Johnson. So, and we know that they rely a lot on those 3 core players to do a lot of things for the Rabbitohs. So they're 1 or 2 injuries and they're in some big trouble. So, but I still hope that doesn't happen for their sake. And they're good enough, I think, to finish top 8. I think they'll finish 6th.
I wouldn't mind if they did miss it, and one of those youngest teams did get a run, got a bit of. I suppose they're going to get knocked. Whoever finishes 8 is going to get knocked out in the first round anyway. But get a bit of experience. One of those young doggies teams or something. That'd be really exciting because South's just rolled out what they did last year, and they were above average last year. They get an injury, they could just be above average or mediocre this year.
Yeah, fair call. Mate, that pretty much wraps us up for the Rabbitohs. Remember at the start of the pod, we said that it was a pretty boring side, and we've talked for about 23 minutes about the Rabbitohs. So we've done pretty well.
Good at dribbling shit on the piss. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, thanks for hopping on, man. As always, we'll keep rolling through these teams. What's next? We've got the Raiders next, don't we? Canberra Raiders, the milk.
Yeah.
So we'll tackle them. We'll tackle their lineup, our booms, our busts, our cheapies, our smokies, and go through what good options you have at Canberra. But lastly, mate, where can we reach you if we want to chat further about Supercoach?
At SC_metrics on Twitter, or you can email us on moltenfantasysports@gmail.com.
And also hit us up on the socials. I think we're on every single social platform you can find at Molten Fantasy Sports. So TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you know the drill there. Like and subscribe if you like the episode and you're watching it on YouTube. Otherwise, make sure to follow along if you're on any of the podcast platforms. And we will see you next time for another team preview. Cheers, guys.